So I'll say I feel like in this journey of being a faith YouTuber, which I have really dropped off the wagon multiple times because I wear lots of hats, but I feel like accountability has been a very big thing because apart from like the guilt that I felt of like, oh wow, God asked me to do something, I'm not doing it, and gasp, what of all the people that God started speaking to through me and how are they doing? I feel like just knowing that people checking in like, hey, like how's it going? What's happening with Lampstand? What's happening with Lampstand? I feel like it wasn't really something to like get me super nervous or get me like feeling pressured. And I personally didn't feel any like pressure from God himself. I feel like even God was like, oh, a lot is going on in your life, which we will share. I think we'll just have to do a live for all the different testimonies to share because they are quite a lot. But I feel like even God was like, there's something else that I need you to be doing this season, which I was doing. And then literally it was like, okay, season has changed. What's the excuse now? None. The answer is none. That's why we're back here. But anyways, I was just saying I'm actually grateful for accountability from you guys, like to all of you who checked in and who were like, we are waiting. Thank you, because here we are. So anyways, we'll jump right into it. Like I said, this is all Holy Spirit inspired. So take everything you hear as directly from him, not from me. I have no notes. I just have my laptop pulled up in front of me and the Bible verse that all of us are going to be learning from. Like I said, I think this is mostly for me in this season, but anything that's for me is usually for you guys as well. So here we go. So we're going to be reading from Jeremiah 1 verse 5, and I'm going to be reading it in a few different translations, as we often do. In Amplified Classic, which I love, it says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew and approved of you as my chosen instrument, and before you were born, I separated and set you apart, consecrating you, and I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." CJB says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I separated you for myself. I have appointed you to be a prophet to the nations." EV says, "Praise, I am your creator, and before you were born, I chose you to speak for me to the nations." ERV says, "Before I made you in your mother's womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I chose you for a special work. I chose you to be a prophet to the nations." And I'm reading this many times because Holy Spirit is speaking to me. I personally feel like in this season, it's almost like a reaffirmation because I feel like I was almost at crossroads of, do I just quietly fade away from from the face of the earth, from the face of YouTube rather? Do I just quietly just pretend like I was never there? And I feel like Holy Spirit was was already 10 steps ahead of being like, more than just like, oh, share your life. Like, I feel like this is an even bigger calling, which kind of scares me a little bit because I'm like, prophets. Me or more, I don't know anything about prophecy or prophethood or prophetdom. But God is telling me that before I was born, before I was even conceived, his plan for me was a special work. His plan was for me to, I like that verse where it says, speak for him to the nations, to literally be God's mouthpiece. And I think that Lampstand is one of the ways, and I think that there are going to be other ways, which I don't know just yet, but we're all finding out together. And there's going to be something for you guys as well, or for whoever else God is also calling to be a prophet to the nations. The prophet part is consistent. I just want to see the different ways that they put the other part. I like the ones that talk about consecration, talk about sanctification, talk about being set apart. Message, we have to read Message. Message says, "Before I shaped you in the womb, I knew all about you. Before you saw the light of day, I had holy plans for you. A prophet to the nations. That's what I had in mind for you." God is saying, it's not any ordination by any church. He himself is calling me out. My chest, you guys. I think one of the first things that stands out from these Bible verses before, just like the beginning of creation when they're like, and God's face was upon the water. So even before your parents met, even before my parents met, even before they even thought about having a child, even before any kind of education that you got, even before any kind of career path that you went to. God is saying, before all of that, first of all, he was. Second of all, you were a huge part of his plan. So you're not a mistake. You're not, if you are one of those children that you have 7 years between you and your eldest sibling, or you and your next sibling, you're not a mistake. You're not an oops. Nobody's an oops. God is saying, before you were ever conceived, he knew not just about you, he knew you personally. He knows your name. He knew that you were going to exist, and not just that you were going to exist. He says first of all, what am I even saying? First of all, he formed you. Before I formed you, he formed you himself. So you are made specially by God. You are literally created by God in his image, is the first part. He formed you. The second part says he knew you. So as he was forming you, he was like, oh, this praise that is going to go to school in SGU, praise that is going to end up being an OBGYN. He knew all those things as he was making my nails. He knew all those things as he was putting my intestines together. He knew all those things as he was putting the left side of my brain and the right side of my brain together. As he was forming all those things, as I was being formed in secret, God was like, as he would add one extra thing, and be like, and in this year she's going to do XYZ. So nothing happening in your life, nothing happening in my life is surprising to God. I think that's what God is really trying to point out to me. Things that I'm like, oh God, why is this happening? He's like, bro, I already knew that. I already knew that as I was forming you. I already knew that. So everything that's happening in your life now, God knows. You are not a mistake. He made you very intentionally and with a plan. The next part he talks about is the part of consecration, the part of sanctification, the part where he pulls you apart. It says, before you were born, I set you apart as holy. I sanctified you. I set you apart for a special work. I consecrated you. And what do all these words mean? So let's take a pause and see. Consecrate. So something that is consecrated is something or someone that has been declared or made sacred. So God is saying, from the time that you were born, he made you sacred. He didn't just make you in a holy manner. He made your entire being sacred, meaning called out, set apart for him, for his own use. Let's see what sanctification means. Exactly, they're the same thing. Sanctification means to be set apart, to be declared as holy. So God is saying things that are not holy cannot be part of you, because he himself has pulled you out of things that are unholy. He himself has pulled you out of things that are less than. God is calling you out of less than and telling you, I created you as holy. I created you as set apart. I created you as consecrated, meaning sacred. The way like we revere altars, God is saying, you are basically my altar. You are my altar and you need to be sacred. You're not like other people. You need to be set apart. You need to be kept pristine for my use. You are not common folk. You are sacred and you are set apart. You are free from sin. You are pure. That's what God is saying of you. So he talks about creating me. He talks about knowing me. He talks about what his plan pretty much was for me. And then he gives me the assignment, which is to be a prophet to the nations. He makes it clear. This is an appointment. This is an appointment, meaning I don't have a say. But then again, if God is my Lord, he can tell me what to do. I don't tell him what to do. It's not what is fitting for me. It is what he wants me to do and what he wants to do with my life. And I feel like in this new phase of my life, I don't know what being a prophet or being appointed looks like. And I'm going to have to do a lot more study on this, guys, because this was literally as I was coming back and Holy Spirit just brought this to my mind. This Bible verse has actually come up multiple times for me in the last week, which is one of the ways I know that Holy Spirit is trying to get my attention to it. I think God is just trying to tell me that my hiatus is up and it's time to come back to what he has called me to do, which is to proclaim his word to the ends of the earth, really. What platform, I don't know, but this is the one that I have, and this is the one that he has given me so far. So I invite you, I invite all of you to come with me on this journey of figuring out what a prophet to the nations, a spokesman to the world looks like in this season. You guys should pray for me because this appointment as minister of spoken word, minister of spoken word, I think it's just very interesting because God knows that I'm a very shy person, but somehow anytime that I have to preach, well, not preach, I wouldn't say preach because I'm not a preacher. I'm just a speaker, speaker of spoken word. That's what I am. But anytime that I have to do this, I feel like Holy Spirit just takes over and takes control. And I think that whatever capacity that would be, whether that is in encouraging, whether that is in calling people out, whether that is in saying what is to come, whatever it is, I hope and pray that God will give me. I mean, He will. He has already just said that He has appointed me, so clearly He's not going to appoint me without any backing. But anyways, I ask that you guys pray along with me and continue to follow along. Let's all see what God is trying to do in this season. But yeah, that's kind of what I have for you guys for today. Yeah, on the Bible side of things.